thought things were looking up for a little bit there. After Iron Man 2 showed a little more promise, I thought that the Incredible Hulk was going to be the worst thing I had to look at for these games. That was not the case. Almost exactly a year after Iron Man 2 was released, Thor: God of Thunder hit store shelves just after the film it was helping to promote, and people weren't exactly kind to this one when it came out. I mean, you'd think that this would be a perfect setup for a game. Thor can travel across the 9 realms, fighting off enemies of all kinds of size and tenacity, and the environments the player could explore would ideally open up in a way that none of the other MCU tie-in games have been able to at this point. Now, I didn't have any previous experience with this game before looking at it for this review, and I hadn't really ever heard a whole lot about it, but when I was getting ready to put this video together, I got quite a few concerned comments from people about the quality of this game, and well, if you follow me on Twitter, you've probably seen that I soon discovered why. The things I do to pretend I'm an entertainer. Well, I know I'm not going to be able to put this game behind me until I give it its time in the spotlight, so without any further delay, let's take a look at Thor: God of Thunder. Once again, this game doesn't try to strictly adapt the story of the film, but unlike Iron Man 2, which tried to create a story set after the film it was inspired by, Thor: God of Thunder has a story that's almost entirely original. It's got one or two elements that remind me of the films, like parts of Loki's scheme or Heimdall being the worst Bifrost guard ever. No, seriously, anytime someone just kind of bats their eyes at him, he rolls over and shows his belly. Does this guy have any loyalty to Odin's orders? The setup is that frost giants from Niflheim attack Asgard, and of course, Loki was the one that let them in because apparently he doesn't know how to shoo off door-to-door salesmen, and after a bit of fighting, Lady Sif gets killed in a hilariously unnecessary way, causing Thor to get all pissed off and murdery and goes on a rampage in Niflheim. From there, a lot of stuff happens, but the main plot point is that Loki manipulates Thor into freeing the Mangog, an ancient beast Odin once created and also imprisoned who wants revenge on Asgard. Loki also tricks Thor into getting trapped in another realm because he wants to be the hero and stop the creature himself, but his oversized travel cooler doesn't really do the trick, and he's gotta go help Thor power up his hammer with a precious metal from Helheim and find a way back to Asgard to save the city from getting destroyed. You know, as setups go, this actually isn't half bad. I mean, they let you travel across a couple of different realms, seeing new locations and creatures and meeting a few characters from comic lore, but what still kind of sucks is that they give Lady Sif nothing to do. She's in the game for like 5 minutes before she's just killed off trying to save someone from getting stabbed.
I should have seen it coming.
What are you talking about, Sif? You did see that coming. Like, you exclusively saw that coming. That's why you're dead. I guess the whole Sif thing is really my only major complaint about the story, because other than that, this actually feels like it could have been an arc in the comics or something. Like, it's actually not a bad story to put these characters in. I do wish there were a few more flavorful conversations between these characters, though. I mean, there are a couple of fun moments between Thor and Loki that I enjoyed.
Ymir is using that spire to focus his power. But here, this passage leads to the heart of the storm.
No spire, no storm.
We'll make a thinker of you yet.
And that massive gate? Do you simply expect to knock and demand they let you in?
I knock very loudly, brother.
Your plan it is then.
But aside from that, the dialogue is pretty dull, and it doesn't help that the performances aren't much better. They've got Chris Hemsworth, Tom Hiddleston, and Jamie Alexander reprising their roles from the film, but I feel like Chris is the only one that really feels like his character here. Okay, I guess it's a little hard to tell with Jamie Alexander because it's not like they give her character a whole lot to do in this game. That's all foundation, though. How's everything around it? Well, spoiler alert, it's all awful! Okay, one thing at a time. So this game has a pretty simple structure. No giant open world to explore, no massive landscapes to run across. It's a level-to-level affair where you move on from one arena to the next and beat up enemies until you're allowed to move on to the next place. To the game's credit, there are a couple of sections here and there that try to shake things up a bit. They add a bit of context to the mindless slaughter, and normally that's something I would praise. I mean, I'm gonna be a little more invested in taking out this group of enemies if the immediate reward for doing so is that my only means of transportation through this swamp won't get destroyed, or yeah, even having a section where I'm traveling across this river on a barge being carried by a giant troll. Points for creativity. But you might have noticed that I said I would normally give praise to that sort of thing. So what's the catch here? Well, that barge section is super slow and boring and goes on for way too long, so any benefit for breaking up the rest of the gameplay is sort of a moot point, but this game isn't really much to look at either. I think the way the environments are constructed are actually rather strong, and I like the concepts behind a lot of these locations quite a bit, and I think the variety is there, but the janky animations, stiff faces on character models, and muddy textures that sometimes take 3 years to pop in really put a hamper on that whole thing. I mean, if you want to make the game look even worse for some reason, the team did take advantage of a certain trend from around the time, and it centers around these bad boys. Let's try it out.
A few minutes later.
Nope, 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 don't like it at all. But the biggest problem of all with this game is the core mechanics. Combat is pretty bad. And by bad, I mean awful. And by awful, I mean it's stiff, boring, killing enemies takes forever, and any attempts at mixing things up fall flat on their face. You have a set of basic attacks that you can unleash on enemies, swinging your hammer around like a madman, and there's a couple of combos you can unlock, but the way you pull them off is weird. Most competently made hack and slash games will give you one button for light attacks and a second button for heavy attacks, and you alternate your inputs in a specific combination to pull off certain moves that will help you deal more damage or clear out enemies faster. And I know it sounds weird to call this a hack and slash considering Thor isn't using a sharp object to fight and just has a big metal brick on a stick, but the core gameplay structure still fits the mold. It's just not very good at it. Instead, here, you've got one primary attack button and then a button that you use to summon the elements of the storm, like thunder, which can break armor off of enemies, lightning that can stun them in their place and cover a wide area at once, and wind, which I never use because who cares. You can use this button at the end of a string of attacks to get a certain power move, I guess, but the only way to really get any other attack combos is to first use your shield and then switch into attack. I don't really... What? You also have a button dedicated to throwing Mjolnir like a projectile, which can be good for long distance combat, but it uses up your special meter really quickly, and using the light form of this attack does basically nothing. This can also be used at the end of combos, but the resulting attacks are so useless it's really not worth the effort. And you know what else really bugs me in this combat? People really underestimate the importance of good sound design in a game, especially something as combat heavy as this, and I think this game is a perfect example to show off how bland the gameplay can be if the sound isn't captured correctly. There's a really distinct sound to Mjolnir, especially in the films, that helps it stand out as a unique weapon, but also when you hear it, it makes you think, wow, that sounds like it really hurts. I really wouldn't want to get hit with that thing. But in the game, it just sounds so off. I'm whacking people with a mythical hammer made of ancient Uru metal forged in the heart of a dying star. Why does it sound like I'm punching them with a pathetic little fist? The game does try to tap into its inner god of war by giving you the ability to grapple onto stunned enemies and giving you the option to wail on them a bit, use a special takedown animation that usually centers around Thor using lightning to obliterate the character model in question, or throw them, but not before giving them a little bit of that good ol'
Jotun scum! Odin will bow to us!
Jeez, Thor, calm down, buddy. These are fun to look at for the first few times, but it gets really annoying when you start to realize that every area you visit essentially has several variations on the same two enemies, and these animations are recycled for every version of every enemy type, so it goes from being really satisfying at first to wishing there was a way to skip these takedown animations and get a move on. They try to incorporate this into boss battles too, and it's creative. For larger enemies, you have to respond quickly to these quick-time events, but depending on what you input, you can focus on certain parts of their body or armor at a time and how to attack it. You know what? Credit where it's due, because if all QTEs gave the player this much agency when they showed up in games, I don't think they'd be quite so hated. I think I've run out of praise though, because the sad fact is that this game only really has two modes, boring and infuriating. Boring, because I've been staring at these animations, taking down these same enemies for hours now, and infuriating for a few different reasons. Thor has this weird fury meter that, once full, he can use to unleash an absolutely devastating screen nuke attack, but the game just kind of decides when he can use it every once in a while. When the game decides it wants to use it as a mechanic, you can charge it up by attacking enemies, but it doesn't count if you're hitting someone with armor, and if you're taking too long to kill people, the meter goes down and the sheer amount of garbage being thrown at you will eventually kill you, meaning you have to start back at the last checkpoint. Or how about when I'm in this room fighting Ulik and I've got these crazy lava pillars coming out of the floor and I'm thinking, oh, I gotta lure him into one of these and it'll help deal damage. Or maybe I gotta hit this explosive battery before he throws it at me so I can use his own attacks against him. But no, both of these elements can deal damage to you, and a lot of it at that, but they have no effect on him. Well, shame on me for trying to take my surroundings into consideration or trying to use some critical thinking to use my wits against this boss instead of just brute force. Cause and effect? Never heard of it. Spatial awareness? What's that? The worst offender though, the part that sucks the most, is this stupid chapter where the enemies from the other realms are attacking Asgard while its defenses are down, and you're hopping around trying to take them all out before this Asgard life meter depletes. This is a great idea, and I think you could even base an entire game around a concept like this if you handled it properly, but this game sure doesn't. Despite the fact that the game shows you all of these locations at once, it still expects you to hit these targets in a very specific order. Otherwise, you're gonna have a very short amount of time to take out this Frost Goliath, and if you fail, which you will, you get put back to a checkpoint that leaves you stuck in this loop where you have to fight this thing but don't have enough time to do it before Asgard falls.
fight bravely to the end. But Asgard is lost.
Thank you, Heimdall. I'm gonna be hearing this phrase in my nightmares. The only way out of this is to load up your last save and basically go through most of this chapter all over again, and man, I sure hope you haven't been saving at this save station you keep returning to between all of these objectives, because if you did, you basically soft-locked your entire playthrough. The game is bad, don't play it. I never even want to think about this stupid thing again. I said at the end of the Incredible Hulk review that I might hate that game. Well, you know what? I know I hate this one. Alright, cool. I'm good. Just, you know what? Just one more to go. One left. Please let this one be merciful. And until then, remember that my top tier patrons get to see these videos 2 days early. You can reach me through Twitter, Twitch, Discord, whichever you prefer. Links in the description. And of course, as always, spread the word, tell your friends, and until we see each other again, thank you so much for watching. See you next mission. Hey there everyone, thanks for making it to the end of the video. I really do appreciate it, and man, this one took a lot out of me. Man, I almost gave up on playing this one too. Like, I thought The Incredible Hulk was bad, but this was much worse. But no, I stuck through it. I went ahead and finished it all up. But yeah, if the other things I've said in the video have been any indication, I did get some kind of rough personal news while I was getting into the editing process for this review, and that kind of put a rough spot on me. Like, it's tough to get in front of a camera or a microphone and just kind of like pretend nothing's bugging you when it very clearly is. And but you know, it was worth it, if only because you guys have been supporting me, and the friend that I lost was also incredibly supportive of this channel and helped make it what it is today. And I want to say thank you to Patricia Marcoux and Christine Larkin for just all of your undying support as my top tier patrons, month in and month out, making sure that it's possible for me to do all of this. And of course, I just wanted to say thank you to you, Rusty. I just heard about the news of your passing the night before recording this. It's still kind of fresh, it still stings. You poured so much into just building up my confidence, helping me find my creativity and passion for working on all of this again. I almost wanted to take a break after the news, but I feel like you would have wanted me to sit down and make sure that I'm still working on all of this. So this one's for you, man. With all that said, thank you so much for watching. I've been Wayne. And rest in peace, man.